The environment of the USA. Like all countries in the world, the USA does have some issues with their environment. But being one of the bigger and more populated countries, we have more than most. It can be shown by looking at the fires in California, the hurricanes, and more natural disasters. However, now does not only harm and affect us, but what we do, what any country does, can now also affect the whole world. Global warming. Global warming is an increase of temperatures on Earth. It is mainly caused by something called greenhouse gases. They are in the atmosphere and let in the heat from the sun. However, because of burning fossil fuels and using non-renewable energy, they instead trap the heat and increase the temperature of the atmosphere. This is one of the main causes of global warming. Effects of global warming. The effects of global warming include a change in weather, sickness, and more. Some places could begin to flood. The air could be harder to breathe in, and cities could be half underwater. The United States of America, being one of the bigger countries in the world, is a major contributor to global warming. From changing energy sources to eating less meat and dairy products, if the USA was willing to make a change in the way we act towards our planet, then significant changes could be seen. Single-use plastic and littering. There are many harmful pieces of plastic that have harmed sea life all around the world. They have been found in 86% of all sea turtle species, 44% of seabird species, and 43% of all marine life species. What the big deal about this is the fact that most of these animals aren't suited to digest plastic, and it can block their digestive system, causing them to eventually die. Styrofoam. Of all plastics, Styrofoam is probably the most harmful. It may break apart very easily, but it continues to roam in the environment in very tiny particles. This piece of plastic could continue to harm the environment for many more years. It is only used for a few minutes, but stays in the environment for hundreds of years. Luckily, in more than 200 cities in the USA, Styrofoam is being banned. McDonald's is also getting rid of foam cups in order to switch to 100% recyclable materials. Although the damage from Styrofoam has already been done, we can still prevent it from continuing to harm the environment. Littering. In the last 6 decades, the making of plastic has increased so much, leaving there to be 8.3 million metric tons of plastic. Most of this is not recycled or thrown out. Only 12% of plastics thrown out has been incinerated. Predictions from scientists have concluded that if this continues, by the mid-century there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. The plastic in landfills will weigh more than the Empire State Building. 6.3 out of 8.3 billion metric tons of plastic goes on to just be waste. Therefore, 79% of it ends up in landfills or just lays around as litter. People must think about their ways of littering unless they want the amount of plastic to weigh more than the Empire State Building. Enforcing littering. As we all know, littering is a problem in the US. It has costed the US $11.5 billion in 1 year. States are spending millions just to clean up parks, roads, and more. Not only does it have a massive cost, but it also harms the environment. Fortunately, states do have penalties for littering. Some where you may have to pay $20 and others where you must pay $30,000. You could even get imprisoned for 10 days to 6 years. If all states get stricter on their rules, then littering could be less appealing. Forests and animals. In the USA, every day we lose 1,000 football fields worth of trees. They still cover about 30% of the earth, but this number is swiftly decreasing. In 1990 to 2016, 502,000 miles of trees were cut down. And trees are really important to our health. They absorb some of the greenhouse gases that we humans make. As those gases enter the atmosphere, global warming increases. and trees also take in carbon dioxide. However, of course, trees can't do that if they're cut down. Instead of taking it in, they are forced to release it. Deforestation causes 10 to 15% of the global warming in the earth. When we cut down trees in the forest, not only do we harm ourselves, but the animals that live near them. Tigers, jaguars, orangutans, and so many more animals are endangered. The homes of these animals should not be cut down so often just for some more buildings. Bees. Surprisingly now, bees are endangered. If they continue to stay like this, it could harm the environment. Bees are the reason we have food, and without them, we wouldn't have any food at all. Beekeepers have reported to be losing about 30% of their bees. They pollinate 71 out of 100 crops, which is also 90% of our food. The main reasons for them dying out is global warming, habitat loss, and bee-killing insects called neonics. Their chemicals also make their way into the crops, but they are about 6,000 times more toxic. Some places have banned them, but unfortunately, the EPA hasn't acted on this quite yet. Solar power. More and more Americans are beginning to go solar every day. By 2019, the amount of solar power was enough to power 12 million homes. However, despite the increase, we could still use a lot more. The sun shines 100 times more power than we actually need, and we are using only a small amount of that. Using solar power would also help stabilize our environment, for it's pollution-free. In 2013 to 2018, bigger cities have increased the amount of solar power used. Wind energy. Wind energy is another way for Americans to step towards clean, renewable energy. Not only does it work really well, but it's free, for no one can charge you for the fact that the wind is blowing. The results are also positive, with cleaner air and fewer climate disruptions. Wind energy, like solar power, is a good renewable source that should be used more often. Conclusion. The U.S. has environmental policies with both pros and cons. Although we are one of the biggest contributors to global warming, it doesn't mean that's too late. More and more Americans are switching to the cheaper but better solar power. More and more places are banning single-use plastic like Styrofoam. Although the U.S. doesn't have the strongest environmental policies, that doesn't mean that we aren't changing.